Hi guys and welcome back. In this video I'm going to be showing you how to put a letter plate into the front door. Let's get into it. Okay guys, so before we start, let's just take a little look at the letter plate and what we actually need to cut out. Now yes, I am calling this a letter plate. That is the actual term for this. Some of you might know this is a letterbox. A letterbox is the one that goes on the wall next to your house. This is a letter plate, this is called. But whatever you want to call it is fine, it doesn't really matter. So front is pretty straightforward. We've got the outer and then we've got the obviously open recess in the middle. So what we want to do is flip it over and actually look at the internals in here. So our cutout is going to be from the bottom point here to the top point here, and then obviously the left to right, side to side on there. We're going to go maybe 2 mil bigger in all dimensions on that, and that's going to be our actual cutout. Then we've got our spring mechanism at the top, which is the thing that actually like pivots it and lets it release. That's going to need another relief, but you don't want to do that as part of your cutout. That's going to be a separate cutout. And then obviously we've got the 2 holes to cut out to secure it to the door. So there's a lot to do with this, but it's fairly straightforward. I'm going to take you over to the door now, and we're actually going to look at getting this marked out on the door and show you how easy it is to do. Okay guys, so like I said, we're going to mark out. Now we're actually going to be fitting this letter plate in the middle rail of this door. You can put it in the bottom rail if you want. It's all personal preference really, but a general rule of thumb is just to remember you're probably going to have a night latch up here somewhere, so you don't want to be putting the letter plate somewhere where someone could get their arm through there. I know it'll be a tight gap, but I have seen it before where you can get your arm through the letter plate and actually unlock the door. So make sure that you put your letter plate somewhere where you're not going to be able to open the door. So middle rail, bottom rail, general rule of thumb, good place to do it. I prefer them in the bottom rail, but like I said, this customer wants theirs in the middle rail, so that's where we're going to go for. Our opening on there is 50 mil, so I'm going to do 55 mil just to allow us a little bit of clearance in there, just so that when this opens, it doesn't snag on the bottom of the hole. So we're going to do that, and then our opening across the width there is 208 mil, so I'll probably go 212, give me 2 mil. So I'm going to be working to the middle of our middle rail, so if I work from the centre outwards, I've got 150 mil middle rail, less 55 mil, divided by 2 gives me 47.5 mil basically, so I can mark that out on there. If I work to 47 mil, it just basically means that I'm going to have 56 mil instead of 55, which is fine. I'm not going to argue with that. So 47 mil right the way across. Remember, any pencil marks that you put on your door, you're going to have to take off. So don't go mental when marking this out. And don't push too hard with your pencil. Okay, so that's our cutout for the centre of there, and then we need to find the middle of this rail. Now, I've got these mullions running up, so I can just take the centre point of that, which is 45 mil. So that gives me the middle of my door, and then I need 106 mil either side, because that gives me 102, if that makes sense. Yeah, 106 either side of that. And then I'm just going to square off of the rail because we know the rail's nice and square. Okay guys, so this is what your cutout should look like once it's all marked out, and you should be able to just lay that on and just double check that you're roughly right across there. So that's all good, so we can now cut that out. Okay guys, so there's a couple of ways you can cut this out. You can do, if you want, just drill a hole in all 4 corners and cut it out with a jigsaw, and that's the easiest option. I'm not going to do that in this instance. I'm actually going to use a router and plunge and cut it out like that, purely because it's cleaner when it cuts out and it gives you a more professional look. But it's perfectly acceptable to cut this out with a jigsaw. Just make sure you've got a decent jigsaw bit so that you're not getting a lot of wander in there. But like I said, I'm going to cut mine out with a router. I'm going to show you the process of me doing that. But like I said, use a jigsaw, use whatever tool you've got. You can even do it with a handsaw if you take your time and just sort of plunge your handsaw in. You can do it that way as well. effectively, whatever you feel more comfortable with doing and whatever's going to give you the cleanest result, you can sand it afterwards. I just prefer doing it with a router. So let's cut this out and then I'll show you how to do the other cutouts and how to actually fit this in place. Okay guys, so you can see here I've clamped a straight edge, just a straight bit of MDF on there, and all I've done to establish that cut is I've measured from the edge of my router cutter out to the edge of my base, and that gives me the distance that I need to mark out for this. So I'm going to get this cut out with the router now. I'm not going to do any talking during that, obviously, because you won't be able to hear me, but then we'll come back and check in afterwards. Okay guys, so if you've done the same as me, you should have a lovely clean hole. Now we have got a couple of mortise holes in here, or say mortise holes, dowel holes in here, which is a bad design on the door front itself, but it's going to be painted, this door, so it'll be fine for that. If you have got that, you might need to go ahead and plug them if you're going to polish a door like this, although you probably won't be using a door like this if you are doing that, but you know what I mean. So yeah, that should leave you a lovely clean hole. We have got a bit of burn in here from the router on the end grain, but that's not going to matter because, like I said, we're going to be routing that. But you can sand this up if you've done the jigsaw method. Sand that up. Okay, what we need to do next, which I am going to pull you in closer and show you how to mark that up in a second, but we need to do our relief for our spring mechanism, and we need to do our relief for our nut lugs on here. So I'm going to pull you in, like I said, and show you how to mark all of them up now. Okay, so like I said, relief for the spring mechanism, and then the relief for these two nut lugs. You can see they protrude out now. So what we want to do is, from the top of our hole, we can measure from any of these points really, but I'm going to measure from the top of our inner plate just to make sure we've got enough there. So if we do 15 mil, if you guys can see that on there, that'll be more than enough recess, and make sure that we're not encroaching past the top of our inner plate. So I'm going to set the router up again to take that cut out. We need to go down to a depth of about ½ an inch, somewhere around there. So ½ an inch down, and we're going to go 15 mil across, or 12 mil down and 15 mil up, and that should give us plenty to make sure that our outer plate's going to cover all of that out. I'm going to use the router again, but you can chisel this out if you want to. If you don't have a router, you can just chop that out with a chisel, just making sure you go nice and carefully. So let's do that, and then we'll do our last two lugs. Okay guys, so the next thing we need to do is drill 2 holes. Thickness for mine is going to be 12 mil again, if I'm in shot there. Yeah, 12 mil again, and they're going to be just deep enough to take that. So that depth for mine is 7 mil, if you can see that on camera there. Yeah, 7 mil. So I'm going to mark them out, cut them 2 out, and then we need to drill right the way through for our bolts. So nice and easy from now on. We're getting there. We're nearly there. Okay guys, so we now need to cut our bolts to length. So I've just put it on the side of the door here for reference so you can see it, but I've just put a little pen mark, a little Sharpie mark on my bolt, and that's about 5 mil longer than the thickness of the door, if that makes sense. Make sure when you do this that you don't have it sitting like that with a gap behind it. Make sure the plate's actually pushed up to the door, and just put a little mark on there just so you can cut this to the right length, because these are supplied for any thicknesses of door, but you know, this is a pretty thick door itself. So yeah, 5 mil longer than the width of the door, if that makes sense. Okay guys, so we're now ready to install the letter plate into the door. So you can imagine now that you'd probably have this door swung at this point. I did forget to mention earlier on that you can do this whole thing whilst the door's swinging, but it is much easier to do it while it's laying it down. You just got a lot more control. The door's not swinging around all over the place. So I'd recommend having it down on either a bench or some trestles if possible. But now it can be in its swinging position or loose like I've got it now. It doesn't really matter. So you can see I'll put my 2 nuts into our letter plate, and all we're going to do is simply push that in, and just might need a gentle little rubber mallet, make sure it's a soft one. That's it. And just at this point, check that everything works. Now you will notice I've left the rounded in corners on my cutout, just purely because I think that looks a little bit nicer from the inside. I probably will put a cover plate on that side as well, but yeah, I just think it generally looks nicer. But you might have some little snagging problems at that point, so you might have to go in with a chisel and just clean up any areas, just to make sure it's easier to do it whilst it's not bolted up. To do it there. So just flip this door around and we'll get this bolted on. Right, there we go guys. Now just on for the other side. Now for some reason with these cheaper ones, they only supply a nut and they don't supply a washer. So I've only got some silver washers, but I will go back and replace these with some brass ones when I find some. So anyway, we'll put a couple of washers on there, which is a really good idea. I would recommend some washers because these tend to pull themselves down into the wood over time. So couple of washers on there, and then just do these up. Now I'm going to be doing these up with a pair of pliers, only purely because I'm being lazy and I can't be bothered to find my adjustable spanner, so a pair of pliers. But these you don't need to cinch, you don't really need to rake on these, you just need to tighten these up, sort of like nip them up sort of thing, because it'll compress the fibres, and ultimately it could, because this is a brass letter plate, it could shred the threads in there. So don't go mad and really rake down on these. Just a few turns is more than enough, just to make sure it's tight. And there we have it guys, that's our letter plate all installed on our door, ready to be painted all over when the person who decorates this can't be bothered to take it back off. But yeah, there we go. Like I said, all fitted, all working absolutely fine, as you can see there, working perfectly. This was out B&Q actually. It was only 16 quid. I'm quite impressed with it, other than the fact that it ain't got no washers in there. It's actually a pretty decent little letter plate. But yeah, you got any questions, if there's anything I haven't explained properly in the video, hit me in the comments down below. I'm going to ask you guys to do me a massive favour. Like I said, we're off the fruit bowl now, so if you can write the word sausage roll in the comments for me, write that word in there. It just lets me know who's got this far in the video, who's watched it right the way along, and really helps me out. So yeah, sausage rolls in the comment for me. Don't forget to subscribe either for more tutorial videos like this. We're back in Eden Lodge soon. We've got major projects coming, so we're going to be doing lots and lots of videos on them, lots of tutorials for you guys. But anyway, I'm going to stop rambling. I'm going to leave it there. Sausage rolls in the comments. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe and ding the bell, and you'll be notified of all my videos. I'll see you on the next one, guys. Cheers.